Shalom and welcome to the Remnant Radio Show. And this is a series that we call the Alef Tav Remedy because most everything we talk about is about the Alef Tav, who is Yeshua, Jesus, Elohim, Alef Tav in Genesis 1:1. But we also focus on that in the Alef Tav body system. Today, the name of this show is going to be Created to Create. And my special guest is Kaylee Abernathy, who is a therapeutic art coach. And I'm just going to say, in my mind, she came on my radar screen in about 2012, 13. And so I've been actually following her and whatever over the years. So it's been like 13 years. And I've been, really impressed with what she does, what she represents, and the challenges that she's been through with her and her family. So let's welcome Kaylee Abernathy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Good to have you. Glad you can make it. So you have been a busy girl, even though you have many obstacles to overcome. And let me see, you have 6 children, is that correct?
5.
5, okay, 5 children. 5 children. And so, yeah, you've had a lot of obstacles, but I also believe that providentially all those things make you and your children and your husband what you're called to do.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Very much.
In spite of whatever. And so that is, and a lot of times like in my past, when I was going maybe through the worst times of my life, I guess not necessarily any credit to myself, but how I handled it and how I walked through it with the Lord is what was a witness to people who I would think, grumpy, critical people came around and actually came in with miraculous things and started to walk in the walk and salvation and did wonderful things for me and my children. So, you just don't know what the Father will do with that, right? So why don't we start with a little bit about, where have you been and what have you been challenged with, at least for the last 10 to 15 years that I know of?
Well, really my challenge probably starts when I was like 1 or 2 years old. But nobody knew. So I'll start at the beginning, but it's not really the beginning. But about 11 years ago, I had a home birth, and it ended up, I almost died after delivering of the placenta. And that weakened me so that Lyme disease took over my entire body and didn't even know that I had Lyme disease. And it was a very, very, very severe hemorrhage. The midwife said it was the worst hemorrhage she had ever seen. She also, she had been a midwife for like over 20 years, and she was an ER surgical tech. So she's dealing with lots of traumatic stuff, coming in. And so I didn't recover from the delivery and continued to get new symptoms, bizarre symptoms, the strangest symptoms. Basically, I existed. I couldn't talk on the phone. I couldn't look at a screen. I couldn't read even a children's picture book. I basically could not use my brain and just had to sit there and stare at the wall or stare out the window. Like having dementia, I couldn't remember anything, even so severe as like looking my husband in the eyes and telling me something, me bursting into tears. I've already forgot what you said, like instant forgetting. And I was in my 20s. And in my 20s, I got told that I was in the beginning stages of Parkinson's. And my oldest 2 children at 7 and 8 years old had to become mommy. They had to start doing all the cooking and the cleaning. I couldn't hardly even make it to the bathroom. I would shuffle, couldn't hardly lift my feet. Lost function of basically my whole body, at least to some degree, and just really couldn't do much of anything. It took almost a year to find out that it was Lyme disease. I got test after test after test after test, and finally found out it was Lyme disease. And looking back, then I could see, I've had symptoms since I was a little kid. Really, I had been struggling all my life, and especially my adult life. So I got married at 18. At 18, I was for sure going to doctors, getting food allergy tests done, doing as much, healthy diets, whether it's the Candida diet or the Maker's diet or the Hallelujah diet or whatever, you know, all the cleanses, all the herbs, all the everything. And there's one nutritionist that I would go to basically yearly, and he was like, "Oh, you're looking great." Like he had, I forget what it's called, but it's like a little scanner, not like the scanner that you use, but it's like they had a pin that he would put on the reflexology points.
Oh yeah, I
that were,
remember those.
yeah, back in the day. And basically I was looking good as far, because I was doing all the things. I was eating healthy. I was like doing all the things, but he's like, your body is just tired. It's just tired. And I'm like, I go to bed at 9. He's like, what time do you wake up? I'm like, 9 o'clock. He's like, well, you're just tired. I guess you just need a nap. And I'm like, I take a nap nearly every day when the kids take a nap. And I was just so exhausted. So even going back into school, whether it was concentration issues or I've had chronic pain, like I didn't know that pain wasn't normal.
Right, I understand.
And even in school, I would be asking the kid behind me to massage my shoulders and my neck because I was just in so much pain. Even in like middle school, probably even elementary school, I did not want to do any of the sports. I didn't want to run. I didn't understand. I still don't understand when people are like, oh, I love running. It makes me feel good. I'm like, no, that I don't compute. That's just very tiring. So I've dealt with fatigue, food problems, like all these things for forever. And so then it started making sense. Okay, it's Lyme disease. We were doing all these things for like fungus and parasites and things, but this is a government created GMO infection. And it's not just a simple, take you some oregano, it's antibiotic, you're good, type of thing. And so found out I had Lyme, and then I had a surprise pregnancy just like 2.5 months later that was a very stressful. My husband cried for 3 days because I had just almost died with a baby barely over a year ago, and I had not recovered. And that was it. Like I couldn't even carry myself. So how am I going to carry this baby? So it was a very, very stressful situation, but I did opt for a home birth again, but we changed it up. We had a relative who had a timeshare that was an hour from us, and it was actually directly beside the hospital.
Gotcha.
And so we did the timeshare. It was, well, I didn't tell this for the first one. The first one was basically during a blizzard. It's just missing the wind is all that it was missing. And my backup was a helicopter. It was so bad they couldn't fly. The hospital is an hour away. There was a lot of stuff that went on. Yahweh was there. He worked everything out. He gets all credit because no man, gets to have the credit because of the obstacles that were there.
And I just want to interject. So actually, I think this Wednesday we're going to, this show is being pre-recorded for May 13th, but we're going to be doing, I think, a show on why home birth. And so I just want to clarify a few things. One is it's not the home birth that made you sick, right?
No.
It's the stress of birth probably that triggered a problem that already been there, right? And could have been much worse actually in a hospital birth. And we'll talk about those things in the other shows. And, even if you want to come back and do childbirth stories, because that's really amazing. And it really takes a certain amount of faith to know that, not to say that we would never go to hospitals or do anything, but there's a certain amount of faith and focus when you're depending on Yahweh to be your provider, your healer, your sustainer. And a lot of times people don't get to see these miracles because they never really depend on him, and this is why we see so many miracles and things in third world countries or whatever, is because, so I just want to say that, that, you obviously had a cell energy problem, right? With the mitochondria and all the things that were going on there. And yes, I haven't talked a lot about in these shows. I talk about it with my clients, but there's some really weaponized stuff out there. And just as, because I'm at least 30, 40 years older than you, is that, I would say between the years of 2000, especially 4 or 5 till 2013-ish, what used to work in your household family sickness with herbs and oils and, hydrotherapy, whatever you were using, right?
Mhm.
I started noticing, oh wow, you really got to max this up. And if I'm doing external, I need to do internal, and we need to mix this and we need to mix that. And it just wasn't as easy. And of course, as we graduated into this, and people are getting more and more sick until we start getting into, especially Alef Tav, with the biblical understanding of energy, it's like, oh my gosh, now I see on a scan what these people are dealing with, right? So that's why we talk about energetic remedies that mothers and families need, because it's energy they're using against us and weaponized stuff. So, yeah, so you went through that period of those things were not helping as much, right?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
you had to find other answers. So go on.
Yeah. So it wasn't, birth is a stress, and I always did get worse with birth, whether there was a hemorrhage or not. But my first two ended up being C-sections. So that's big stress on the body anyway.
Right.
Then
Absolutely.
the next one was a VBAC at the hospital, and it doesn't have record that I had a hemorrhage, but anyway, there's might have been a possible hemorrhage after the fact, but that's kind of debated. But then this one was a home birth, because I'm like, I had my successful VBAC. Now I have the confidence I can do this, so we have the home birth. And that would be a stress itself, but hemorrhaging almost to death was like the huge stress on the body. So anyway, so then I end up with the next pregnancy, and I did decide to do the home birth again, the situation, because there's just so many reasons, but me having two VBACs or two C-sections in my history, basically if I walk in any clinic, C-section, they're going to want it right away.
Right.
And it's just, there's times for a hospital birth, but there's so many things in there that just make it where you're not going to be as restful and peaceful and able to flow with your body and with the baby as you need to be. And I needed to be able to rest. I needed this to be as peaceful and as smooth as possible, because my body was tapped out. It didn't have the energy to go through this. And anyway, so I did actually hemorrhage with that baby again, but my midwife was ready for it. And the whole pregnancy was very stressful for many reasons. But anyway, so that took me kind of, so many complications, because pregnancy, breastfeeding, most Lyme treatments you can't do while pregnant or breastfeeding, especially the natural ones. And so it just made very complicated issues. Then when that baby was 2, we're getting close to weaning, I ended up getting bit by a tick again and getting a bullseye. And people might think, oh, well, you already have Lyme. What's the big deal? Well, there's many different strains of Lyme disease. Plus, every tick bite that you do get a bacteria. Most of them are some kind of infection. Most of them your body can kick out. Your immune system can deal with it. But there are certain ones that are big mammy jammy bad guys that want to wreck your system, and you could be getting new co-infections, you can get new strains, and just that extra toll on the immune system when you're already struggling. Anyway, that made me where I became allergic to nearly everything that has a smell. Natural, chemical, food, essential oils, like all the things. If it had a smell, I would start throat closing, turning blue, heart rate sky high, trembling uncontrollably, and it became insane. So with that, I had some mast cell activation syndrome. I also had POTS, Raynaud's. I had all kind of things that then came from the root of Lyme and all the damage that it's done throughout my body. And basically, I had many, many years of I'm just surviving. I'm just existing. I'm not able to be a mom. I mean, the kids, they would even have to rock the baby a lot of times for me, because I was too weak to even rock the baby.
Yeah.
I'm a homeschooling mom, but I can't even read a picture book to my toddler, let alone read a chapter book, to the older kids. And it just was, other than my faith, my family, and actual life, I lost basically everything that I loved, everything, even that I didn't love. I don't love washing dishes, but I couldn't even if I wanted to, it's like I lost everything of myself. And I would tell my husband sometimes, basically, I'm an ornament on the mantle. Y'all just move to dust around and then put me back. And that's it. And at some point, I started healing just a little bit. I went from barely being able to walk to the bathroom to I could take a slow, small stroll around the porch or on the porch, started on the porch, then around the porch and slowly in the yard. And I would pay for it. I mean, I might even pay for 3 days for having done a stroll in my yard. But my mom had bought me a course for my birthday that was a learning to use a camera in manual mode. I used to be a photographer, but I never just learned manual mode really well. And there was this course, and it was all supposed to be like super short videos, like 3-minute videos to teach you the lessons. And I was like, okay, maybe my brain could handle that, and that would kind of give me something to do. And so I dived into that, and doing photography gave me something back of myself. It's like I might be really, really bad afterwards. I literally would be like trembling, trying to take a picture. I would come in, I couldn't talk anymore. I couldn't listen to anybody. I would curl up in a ball, and I could honestly feel like my organs, like whether they were shutting down or just like, hey, we're stopping for now. Like I could just feel everything shutting down from simply strolling beside my porch to take a photograph. But after the fact, I would have these beautiful images that I could look at over and over and over again that gave me back something of myself. And so that set me on a journey of learning about the benefit of art, but also the benefit of photography. To see nature, you can see it in real life, or you can just look at a picture of photography, of nature, of especially greenery, but nature in general, and it will reduce pain. It will help with inflammation in the body. It'll help with memory. It'll help with mood, like all these different things just by looking at what Yahweh has created. Yeah. Of course, when we're in it, it's stronger, of course, right. But just seeing it. And so I started combining photographs with scriptures that were encouraging. And I've had lots of people tell me, they just love those pictures. They mean a lot to them. One lady, I mean, it's been years since she got a picture from me. And she told me recently that she still, whenever she's having a hard time, she will just go look at that picture, and it just brings her so much peace just to stare at this picture and read the scripture for a little while. So that was like my start of therapeutic art and just diving into what that does for me personally, but also for others. And then later, when I improved some more, I went on to become a therapeutic art coach. There are so many different levels of art. It's not just like you have to draw or you have to paint. You do not have to be an artist. You don't have to be perfect to be able to get, I mean, you think about a toddler, they're just smushing color, they're just scribbling and they are getting benefit from it. And from my research, what I found is we are created in Elohim's image. He is a creator, and we do bring on he has put on us some of the traits of his character. And I truly believe we were created to create as well. And if you take it back, not too far ago, but before all the industrialized, modernized things that we have, if you wanted anything, whether it was a meal, a piece of clothing, a bowl, everything was art. Everything was creating. And there's so many studies showing the benefit of art. And what they found is really, it's not just that it's good for us, it's actually essential for our well-being to be creative. It actually engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which I'm sure you've addressed that with your followers before, but you have fight or flight is one side of the nervous system. And then the other side is when the parasympathetic nervous system is engaged. That's when you can rest, you can digest, and you can detox. If you're stuck in fight or flight, you are not doing any of that properly anyway. And so just to go color in a coloring book will literally kick in the parasympathetic nervous system, drop cortisol, increase endorphins, increase serotonin and dopamine. And literally help you to just be happier, be relaxed. And so it's not just in our society, it's like, that's for kids. And
Right.
now we have to be productive. We have to make money. We have to be doing something that's productive. And we leave those hobbies behind. Those are just hobbies. But no, actually, it's essential for your well-being to engage in art anyway. But when you kick it into, so art's therapeutic by itself, but when you kick it in deeper to therapeutic art, you really, really get some major whole well-being, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically effects that happen, where you're able to process traumas, process stresses, get things that are stored in our tissues and our cells and our organs, and actually externalize them, so that the energy that negativity was causing actually gets moved out of your body and put in a safe place elsewhere, and actually shifts the energy of your body. Well, at least that's my belief of what's happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we can measure these things today. I mean, energy or emotions is energy in motion. And I had an experience a few years ago, and I noticed, especially up in the Northwest, there'll be young men, early 20s, sometimes not even 20s, but young men who get wounded in battle in the war, right? And they come back and they're disabled and they can't get jobs. And then they're put on disability, which is great, that but they have no purpose or nothing to go to. So they drink more, and or they do drugs, or they just, and the thing about art, I think we really do need to be productive. But when you're doing art, you are producing.
Yeah.
You're producing and you're producing and moving out energy and emotions that are just sitting dormant if you don't do it. And just want to share this one thing. So one thing I want to point out is in Genesis chapter 1, which I think everything's in Genesis. So Genesis chapter 1, in verse 1, in the Hebrew, it basically says in the beginning, Elohim Alef Tav, created, or bara. And you notice that is a different Hebrew word, right? And I'm sure you probably know this, but that is when you create something out of nothing. And if you break it down, it's basically, he created a house from the very beginning for a family, from the strong one, the Aleph. And then when we get to verse, I think it's 7, where he says he made things, right? It's actually a different Hebrew word, and it's asah, it's the ein, it's almost like he already did everything energetically with his life force of creation through Elohim Alef Tav, but now it becomes seen, right? After it vibrates, goes to the water, and I'll go into deeper with that. But so I just want to point out that there are two different words. So when you're reading in the Hebrew, there's the creation, and I also think it's almost like the bursting of atoms, right? You start getting the pictures of it. But there is a difference between creating from nothing, bara, versus asah, forming. And if we're created in his image, which my concept of that is like back in the old days when we had Polaroid cameras, right? You took the picture. Well, you have this light, right? And Yahweh's light. And then you pull that back and you have the negative. And I look at it as we are the negative of the positive light. And so when you're creating something, because we're made in his image in how we're built to function, etc., is we need to produce. So create, right? So I think it's awesome that you're doing this. And the one question I would have is, what would you say, or is there even a difference between therapeutic art versus just creating? In other words, art evidently just is therapeutic, right? I mean, how would you define that?
Okay. So art is therapeutic in and of itself.
Okay.
But when I go to do therapeutic art, I'm adding an extra life coaching to it, where we're doing specific things to address specific issues that they have. So let's say someone's husband died and they have a lot of grief. So we would be doing specific art to be working on that thing, to try to help move that. Or let's say somebody has self-esteem issues and they really have a problem with stinking thinking, I'm no good, all that stuff. We start working through, where does that come from? Was it, did you have an abusive dad? Where did that come from? And working on bringing everything. So scripture tells us, bring every thought captive unto the obedience of Messiah. So we're going to look at everything, try to bring it to truth, try to work on processing it and trying to get that moved out, a new perspective, whatever the situation is, and help heal specifically for that. So they're doing the art, but then we're also doing that extra where it's a very specific area that we're working on for them personally. You do get benefit just throwing paint at the wall. But if we're doing it with a purpose, we're like double timing, the therapeutic aspect that we're getting at with that. So does that answer?
Yeah. And I know that I know that you're also in the background. You do have a course. I want you to talk all about that. But you are also in the background looking at the Alef Tav body system and how to integrate art so that, like, for instance, when you talk about this grief, right, I automatically go, well, that's cycle 2 in the Alef Tav body system. And I know that is dealing with grief emotionally in that cycle. But I also know that it has to do, with the lungs and the large intestines. And so whenever your fascia, et cetera, so whenever you're processing or working with something, like you say, there's all these other things going on with your art. And by doing that, art with a purpose, you can also start seeing the Alef Tav body system in it and going, oh, and now we can, instead of tuning forks or essential oils that are resonating, whatever, we can now look at, okay, what kind of art or what aspect of art can we use as therapy for that, right?
Yeah. And when you, people have in their mindset that art is like drawing, but like music is art, cooking is art. There's lots of different areas of art. And so you could do therapeutic art specifically, let's say, like for that cycle, we're working on grief, and you could be playing the Alef Tav music in the background. The more, really with therapeutic art, with my course, is to help rewire the brain. And so the more sensory that you have when you are working on rewiring your brain, the quicker those new neurons are going to be firing and reconnecting and building and making the new pathway. So adding in the essential oils that are for that cycle. Okay, now we have new sensory, our touch for whatever artwork we're doing, that's new sensory. So you could be combining, you can be putting the patches on, you could be doing the music, you can be doing, like all the different things at one time and working, together on that. And I think
that be, in that case, you would be more focusing on the kinesthetic as you're doing the art? On learning modalities, kinesthetic as a movement, some people are very visual, some people are very audio. I know with all of those different ATB modalities, everybody responds to all of them, but sometimes we need, or we are particularly, like, more people respond more to sound to get their body in balance. Some do more the aroma. And so I'm just thinking, when you're using your hands or mind or body kinesthetically, you're doing kinesthetic therapy to bring it together. And some people really need that, right?
Yeah. When you said that, sorry for my brain was like muscle testing. I saw muscle testing. I was like, hold on. What are we doing?
No, I'm just talking about movement,
Yeah. Okay. And that's something, everybody's brains are different. You do have people who are more, like, even in learning, they're more visual or more audio or more textile. And that's kind of one of the beautiful things with art, is that when you are doing therapeutic art, it is that there's not a right or wrong. I don't care if you scribble. I don't care if you doodle. I don't care if you come out with this masterpiece. That's not the point. The point is actually the journey that you're going on, the releasing that's happening. So one of my things that I like to do with people is I like to incorporate therapeutic journaling, writing. That is a form of art.
Writing is very creative, but a lot of people don't consider it art, but
but it is. It's very much art. And there are so many PubMed studies on therapeutic journaling. They can prove that it works. Like, there's one in particular that's famous. They had people journal for 20 minutes on a traumatic or stressful event. That's it. No other prompts. No, just one time. This is what we're doing. They had self-assessments before, but they also had them go get physicals done before and after. And 4 months later, from this one journaling, not journaling every week, just this one time of this releasing, they had inflammation levels go down, their immune system function go up, less doctor visits. Like, for real, we can see your blood work shifted, and we can see your mood went up, all this stuff happened. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is our memories are not actually just stored in our brain. Our memories are actually stored throughout our body, throughout our organs, throughout our cells, throughout our fascia, all over. And they can't prove why journaling works, but my theory is that let's say you had something traumatic happen as a child and that got stored in your thyroid. Well, that negative memory, that negative thing is going to be draining the energy in your thyroid all that time. And when you go to do the therapeutic journaling and you go to write about that, actually, every time we remember something, we actually don't remember the original memory. We actually add to it and we don't realize it. But every time we recall a memory, we slightly change it. And you are able to take something traumatic and bring that thought captive and work through it and make a new memory that then shifts the energy where that memory is stored. But also, by with therapeutic journaling, it's important you have a journal you don't let anybody read. It's, if you want to tell somebody what's in it, that's fine. But your mind needs to see this as a safe place that I can be as open and as honest as I want to be. I don't have to worry about somebody's going to get mad or get their feelings hurt. You can just pour out any thoughts that you have. And your body looks at that and your brain looks at that and goes, okay, I don't have to keep that memory rolling in the back of my brain. It got stored in this safe place. If I ever want to recall it, I can pick it up, open it up, and there it is. And the normal response for people for processing is you have your ruminators who just sit there over, think, and they're trying to process, but they're just keeping it going. Right. And then you have your other people who are your stuffers. We're going to put that in a safe place inside so it doesn't hurt us, and we just stuff it. And then you have people like me who are talented, could do both at the same time. And neither are really healthy. Both are trying to process and trying to stay safe, because that's really what our ultimate goal is to find safety and harmony, in our body. But both of them is kind of, one's holding on to the negative energy and the other one's like kind of keeping it going by doing that. And when you take the time to do the therapeutic journaling, you're getting it out. So you're getting to move it out of your body. And you're also allowing your mind time to process, time to, because really that's what trauma is. Trauma is something that you haven't processed. That's why you have two people go through the same event. One gets trauma from it and the other one doesn't. It's something that you haven't processed yet. So it allows processing. It allows change of perspective. It allows you to even find, sympathy, towards somebody, forgiveness. It allows a lot of things to happen that just when it's running on the inside, you're not taking that step back. By writing it out, you're adding in this whole new, we're spending time on this right now. And we're putting every thought that we have. And that's one of the things, like if you run out of something to say, let's say you're in a journal for 30 minutes, the instruction is just rewrite what you've already written. And as you keep writing it, more things will then start coming. And all of a sudden you'll start connecting things that you didn't realize were connected. You'll start saying, oh, that was something that my grandma said to me when I was 5 years old that really hurt me. And you won't realize that actually roots into this other event, that's happening when you're 35 years old. And so another part of therapeutic journaling is after you've written, you go back and you reread through stuff. And then you write a little summary of just a reflection time. What were some patterns you noticed? What were some, whether it's in what happened or your reactions, just little, whatever stuck out to you, making a reflection time. And then all of a sudden, you'll be able to start processing things that before was just stored as trauma in your body and come away with a new heart, a new mind, towards that situation. But it also just gets it out. It makes it where you don't have to hold it and that little container inside, because it's held over there. And an example I like to tell people, I don't know if other people are like this, but for me, like if I go and make a Facebook post, and it's a long post, and I'm like writing all this stuff out, and all of a sudden Facebook's malfunctions and my post is gone, my brain will be like, oh no, it's gone. It's like my body was like, okay, I put it somewhere, so now I can let go of it.
Right.
And so now I'm like scrambling. Oh no. What did I say? What did I forget to say? What haven't I said yet? And it'll actually almost be like panic mode, like it's gone. And we just do that when, at least a lot of people do that when they go to write out, they get to move it. And then it's like, okay, it's safe. It's over there, but it's not in here anymore. And so wherever that memory was stored, that energy gets to shift, especially as you process and you make a new ending to the story. Let's say you have a traumatic experience, but now that we're processing it, we're finding whether it's forgiveness or just coming to terms with what happened, even if it's just accepting that wasn't my fault. That's somebody else's fault that they did to me. And you're able to remove the blame, whatever it is. You're actually making a new story to, ending to that story that's stored in your body. So the whole story shifts, the whole energy of it shifts wherever that was stored at in your body. So.
Yeah, I can remember 3 different things that were so painful and so traumatic, thinking about that rewriting. One was, it was so painful. We used to have creative memories and all the little notebooks that we would make for pictures. Well, what happened with my 2 little girls and their father just was so horrible to me. And I couldn't do the picture albums. I just, because it would just be so painful. And there was so much anger because I never made those choices. I did everything to not have those choices. And so if anything, like, just like I used to have strawberries and bright red and white in my kitchen, but, I didn't want any of my little strawberry knickknacks or, kitchen items or whatever. So, and there were so many places I wouldn't go, things like that. So then I would be like, okay, I got this. I just felt like the Holy Spirit told me, because I didn't know anything else, but you just go back and rewrite it. Go back and rewrite. So of course my husband's like, why are you buying this? You have it. It's like, because it's got to be different. This is a new life. And then I went to cows. But anyway, but there was another one when I was really young. It was a really horrible thing that happened at Hearst Castle with someone. And that wound was there. And so I always said to myself, now that I learned you can rewrite your experiences, like if you can get the courage to go back and redo or revisit something or someplace. And, it was like 40 something years later, but I had the opportunity then to take my grandchildren to the same place. And so now when I think about that place, it's a rewrite of, okay, the other one, big deal, but I had these great, good memories. And just one more thing before I keep interrupting you is, yes, like, okay, so I'm pushing, I think I'm pushing 68. I can't remember, but anyway, I had a flashback during the time of the year, which is right the day before my birthday in November. And I was really feeling out of it. And I don't remember ever really feeling out of it in these past 40 something years, but now that I work with Dr. Monzo and Kim and, these people who are processing emotions and stuff, and I learned one thing about our generation is we didn't really learn to process. We just went on to what we had to do, right?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, why am I so sad? Like what? Well, then I recalled, you lost your first child, that many years ago. And then that brought me to the memory and the heart of the response that someone had towards it and how much it wounded me. Yeah. And all of a sudden, because I had this other understanding and training with emotions and the body and, everything, then all of a sudden the Holy Spirit revealed to me why that other person responded that way was because they, as a child, were never allowed to process or feel and had to protect themselves. So now my pain went to empathy to that person instead of holding that against them
Yeah.
for what they had done. So that would be great that you can do that purposely through any, anything like that, but especially art.
Yeah.
And so tell us about, you have this art program now, right? This therapeutic art ground. So you want to tell us about that so that people can go there and check that out?
Yeah. Well, before I do that, there was a couple things you had said before that I wanted to get into. So when you brought up Genesis and you were talking about the different in the Hebrew, and that just made me think of, so something that's often used in therapeutic art is visualization. And a lot of people feel like, ooh, that's new age, that's yucky, blah, 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 blah. I'm not talking about, oh, we're going to conjure up our future or whatever, and this is going to magically happen to us. But they have proven that when your eyes are closed and you are visually trying to see something in your brain, basically what you're doing is storytelling in your brain. You're trying to see the details, see the color, see the sunlight. The part of your brain that actually controls vision actually lights up. So even though you're not seeing something, your body responds like you're seeing it. And that's it is a creative avenue that's just able to bring in mindfulness, and I don't mean that in like a bad way, to just like sit.
But we really need to go biblical on this. I mean, people without vision perish, right? What are dreams and visions and concepts and illustrations that the Holy Spirit gives you? There's a good way to use it, and it comes from a good source, or it comes from a bad source.
Yeah.
So,
and we even have Isaac was out in the field meditating. Yeah. And if you say meditate, they're like, oh no. And it's like,
right.
It's literally to chill. We run in go mode, and it's just to calm and sit and chill out and make our brains be focused. We encounter so much now. They didn't used to encounter. If you drive 15 minutes to go to the grocery store, all the billboards you see, all the signs you see, all the all the trees going by, that used to not be possible. If you were even on a horse, you would not have seen as much input into your brain because it's not feasible. You weren't going as fast. You weren't bringing in so much, let alone all the devices and the, swipe, 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 all the lights. We get so much nervous system stimuli. And to just be like, okay, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm just going to imagine being at the beach. I'm going to imagine I'm on vacation because I can't afford to go on vacation. Right. And just focus and just put out all the stimuli and just be like, okay, this is the natural scene. We're going to enjoy painting a picture with our mind instead of with our hands for the moment. And your brain reacts like you really saw it. And that's insane to me. But just when you were saying that about basically the energy side versus the actual being created side, that just made me think of that's like how our brain works. Something else that you said. So with your age, I have a very dear friend who is older, and she also was, military. Pull up your bootstrings, put your big girl underwear on, and you just do. And you are not allowed to think or feel, or you just do. You got to keep the peace. You got to do whatever. And so she struggles with. If something doesn't feel like she's being productive, because she's been, push, you go, put all that stuff to the side. So the idea of therapeutic art was like, she got it, and she does enjoy art herself, but she enjoys when it's something serviceable. I'm making somebody gloves. I'm making them a hat. I'm making something that's going to serve and do for somebody. But the idea of, hey, we're just going to paint on some paper for today, and it's not going to be pretty, and we're not going to hang it up on the wall. We're just going to make a mess. She struggled with that.
Oh yeah, I feel guilty.
And so I came at her and I was like, okay, she also has Lyme disease. She knows how expensive treatment is for Lyme and how difficult. I'm like, okay, so we can go and spend all this money going to a clinic, all this money on supplements, all this money on special detox, infrared lights, all these things. And we see that as treatment, and we'll give the money that we need for what we think is going to help us. But you could do this at home for free, or $10, $15, to get you art supplies if you needed it. And it's literally engaging your parasympathetic nervous system. It's literally helping you digest. It's literally helping reduce pain and boost your mood. And it was free. So it actually is a service, even though it may seem, if I'm going to sit there on an infrared mat for an hour, I'm just sitting there, so
Right.
if I'm just going to sit there and color, well, it's therapy. It really is valuable and productive, even though we're like, okay, that's not going to make us money, or it's not going to, keep somebody's hands warm, but it's as valuable as many other treatments that you could get. And it's free or cheap. You can make art expensive if you want.
Right. Well, yeah, look at quilts. Quilts used to be all your leftover pieces, and now it's like, or making your own clothes. It's just so expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even worth it. It's just if you wanted something special, because it's so expensive to buy the fabric now, to make it. And so anyway, so it is productive, but definitely certain age group, it was very much, you be quiet, you keep the peace, you don't let anybody know anything, dry your tears up, let's go. It's just go, corporate mode, produce, ride the ladder, type of thing. And we're meant to go sit out in the field and play a song, which is therapeutic art. I mean, you have so many examples of artisans of music that can calm a beastly king, and just it is therapeutic. And there's just so many. I mean, David, he even went and got all of these musicians and psalmists and stuff to be there to constantly make music for worship. That we know that that's connected to worship, but it also is art. It's a therapeutic art. And it was that valuable to him to get people to, like, full time. That's your job. You're going to come in here and make something pretty. And in our minds, we have a hard time, like, pretty, at least for me. Yeah. I'm a very big budgeter, frugal, we don't need extra pretty, but non-scripture, there's a lot of pretty things, that go on where, even making the tabernacle, there were these artisans that they were brought in. They had, Elohim had put on them these skills to be very skilled in it. So it is a value, but in our culture today, we don't need the value, because we can get the cheap stuff from China. We don't need an actual artisan who's really good at making pots, or really good at making, metal work or horseshoes or whatever it is. We don't need that, because you can just go buy another one for $5. You don't need the artisan skill. But it used to be everybody was creating every day. That's just the way life was. So to my course, it's an online course. Go at your pace, and it is 30 lessons. And each lesson, I'm helping people to take in science and the Bible and learn to rewire their brain. And then there'll be an art activity that goes along with that. And it's you could make it very specific if you had a specific issue in your life, say, like we were talking about before, if you had grief. But this one's done in a very general way. We're working on well-being in general. And so it's basically for anybody. I love to promote it for homeschool. Younger children might need some assistance, from their parents, but basically 8 and up, can join in for sure. So it's like all ages can benefit. I have a coaching client that's older, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm as old as I am. What's the point? And it's like, if you could all of a sudden today not have pain, would you enjoy it? I know if we've been in pain for 50 years, wouldn't it be nice to not have pain, even if we're only going to live for another 10 years? But at any moment, to have shalom come into your life, to be able to just feel better, sleep better, have a better mood. It's worth it, no matter what your age is. And anyway, it's just, to me,
you said there's 30 lessons.
Yes.
And they're different types of modalities, or like.
Yeah. So I have, some of it is specific, but I wanted to make it where people didn't have to go spend a bunch of money, to do it. So I will end up staying in the medium of your choice. So if you want to color, paint, draw, do collage. I do mix it up where I will have specific, today is a collage day, but then I'll give an alternative. So if all people have is crayons and paper, they can still join in and benefit from it. And it's step by step on working on breaking down limiting beliefs, breaking down the lies, learning what truth is, bringing truth into your life, biblical truth, and just learning how, for instance, our brains have a part in the brain that works like a Facebook algorithm. When, like, you have so much stimuli, you don't notice everything that's going on. Let's say if you don't need a car, you're not going to notice the cars for sale on the way to the grocery store. Right. But if your car died and you're having to hitch a ride with your neighbor, you're going to start noticing every one of those cars that are for sale. I keep hitting the same, sorry. And it's because that algorithm part of the brain, so your brain takes in all the stimuli, but the direct focus is on what your brain is hearing from you. Oh, that's important. Let me scan for it. Let me scan for it. Let me scan for it. Oh, there's a car. There's a car. Right. And then when you don't need a car anymore, you're not going to notice the for sale signs anymore. And so what we tell our brain we want to focus on or is important to us, that's what it's going to feed us. So if we sit there and consume negative news, negative social media, our brain's going to be like, oh, she really likes this girl. Let me help you out. You know what else? It's over here. I'll let you know. And so it will start picking up all the stimuli for what it thinks you want, even though you might not really want it. You might really be like, I'm in anxiety. I am terrified because of all this negative news going on right now. But if you keep consuming it, your body's going to be like, your actions speak louder than your words. You really do find this important.
But and so like your body actually begins your body's always looking to balance. So it wants to resonate at a higher level of health and vibration, life giving. But if you bring it far enough down with bad music, bad atmosphere, your body eventually, I think it breaks down and gives up. And it just comes right into it. I think that has to really have to do even like with bad company versus good company. And I kind of thinking of it from a mother's perspective. I tell people like, oh, they're crying, and I'm like, after the first child, right? You're like, it's not the right pitch. It's not the right tone. I know they're okay. So let them cry. So it can be the opposite. At the same time, you can see something and it looks good and it sounds good, but there's something not right, and you just tune into that to bring that to resonance. You said we only have about 3 minutes. Okay. So what you said you have your course, so give out your website, and of course I will post this when I go to post the show. But also, you said you have the charge as a donation program or something you wanted to explain?
Yeah, so the website is CIHItherapeuticart.com, and the CIHI stands for Created in His Image. So CIHItherapeuticart.com. And yes, it's donation based. With all my health challenges, I understand very much how it feels to need somebody's assistance, somebody's expertise, some kind of therapy, and just not be able to afford it. And I wanted whoever actually needed it and would benefit from it and would do the work, if they couldn't afford it, they can still get it. And so it starts at $100 and it goes up to $1,000. But if there's anyone that $100 is too much, they can contact me for a scholarship or for payment plan or for a reduced price, whatever they need. And I'm happy to help in whatever way that they need for people who really want to heal holistically, and they just, are in a situation where they can't. That to me, I don't want to be gatekeeping any information that would be beneficial to people. So that was really important to me to have it donation based.
Okay. So CIHItherapeuticart.com, and I'll post the exact link for that. I also noticed you have free therapeutic art challenge and coloring page.
Yeah. So the art challenge is a 5-day challenge. It gives people a taste of what would be in my course and gives them really, you can take that and run with it and actually change the prompts, like if we're working on what's stressful, You can work on stressful, and then you could do the same exercise again and be like, okay, now we're going to work on anger, or we're going to work on grief, or whatever it is that they're needing to work on. But I wanted people to be able to get a taste of it, but also be able to benefit. And I ran it first on Facebook, and before I put it on my website, and I have somebody who did it who's actually a therapist, and they've heard of therapeutic art, of course, art therapy, but they never understood why that would be helpful. And from the very first exercise, her mind was blown, how her perspective changed, how all of a sudden a problem that was going on in their life, all of a sudden had like solutions come in from the one exercise. And after that, she's like, I don't even know how this works, but this was amazing. And that was a big deal for her to be a therapist and know about it. Be like, I don't know about that. And then to experience it herself. And it's really powerful. It really only takes one exercise for you to shift. I have people rate their well-being from 0 to 10. And then after they do it, rate their well-being. And at least anyone that I've talked to, I've never had somebody not move at least 2 points on their well-being from one exercise. So it's pretty powerful.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to checking it out in a few months when I get back. But yeah, that's incredible. So I'm excited. And it's, and again, homeschool moms, families, men, women, older, younger, everybody needs a little bit of outlet, right? And something that's calming, that's not expensive, right?
Yep. 100%.
And you might discover some things about yourself you never knew.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. For sure.
Start processing some emotions, or learning to process emotions. I'm actually embarrassed oftentimes of like, wow, I never processed any of that. I didn't know it was an option.
So before we go, because I know you got to go, but studies have come out showing that stuffing, that like just having, actually is linked to autoimmune. Because what you're doing, you're telling yourself. So what I was going to say a minute ago, with the whole algorithm, your body is meant to serve you. So you let it know how to serve you. It's trying to heal. It's trying to heal your cells. It's trying to function, and you let it know. But when we suppress ourselves and our emotions, we are actually saying, I'm not important. And we're created in the image of Elohim. We are important. Now, of course, he gets all esteem, but it actually ends up shifting where then your body starts suppressing too. You suppress, now it's suppressed, and now you have autoimmune conditions.
Which is no energy moving, which causes death, basically. Wow. Well, I want you to come back, especially when you get the Alef Tav body system correlation done, because I think there's a lot of clients and or practitioners that would really benefit from this and be able to do it with their clients or offer it to their clients.
Well, thank you. I'd love it.
Thank you, Kaylee. I'm so excited that you came, and I look forward to what you've got going in the future.
Oh, thank you again for having me. Shalom.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for being here. May your garments always be white, and may you head lack no shemen oil, which again is actually also the Holy Spirit. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell somebody about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.